Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just this DC Studios lineup coming our way, but more specifically, Lanterns. So over the next week or so, I think we're meant to have the commencement of filming for Lanterns, the upcoming series on HBO for DC Studios. This series, of course, focusing on the two most well-known Green Lantern Corps members of Hal Jordan as a, like a veteran or experienced, member of the Corps, and John Stewart as the rookie, from what we know, with the two coming together to deal with a mystery set in Middle America, with us really not knowing if they have any prior relationship or if this is going to be a butting of heads. We don't know. Now, there were worries that the series would be too grounded, like way too grounded, like literally, like almost grounded in reality as if we're walking outside of our front doors and that's where the world is set. But the last main casting to round out the show was that of the well-known antagonist of the Green Lanterns, primarily Hal Jordan, that of course being Sinestro, with the description of the character essentially saying, yeah, by this point he's a Yellow Lantern. His casting, sort of calmed down those that thought it would be just, Hal Jordan, John Stewart walking around in civilian clothing until maybe the finale where we get like a 5-minute CGI fight sequence and it'd be a bit disappointing. Sinestro will be a recurring character throughout I say the series because we don't know if this is going to have multiple seasons, but he should at least be a recurring character throughout what we're going to assume is just season 1. So this suggests that this series maybe does stretch further than people initially believed. Sinestro would have been in some people, if not most people's, top 5 things they want to see in this show, but with him now confirmed, what are some other major things we would like or just 100% want to see in Lanterns, in about a year and a half from now, roughly? Well, that's the point of this video. I'm going to include some of mine and some that I've seen online, so a bit of the best of both worlds if you want to put it. But of course, throughout the video, let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on everything we go over, what you want to see that maybe we don't mention, and which are the ones that we do talk about would you want to see the most, and maybe you disagree with. I don't know, let me know. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, drop a like. It takes 2 seconds. So the first one is the one that I just like seeing something like this and seeing if they maybe even change some stuff up from the comics, especially if they don't have a prior relationship between Hal Jordan and John Stewart leading into the show, because I don't think we should expect in the present day of the show that we get John Stewart's origin, but I would like to see it in some way regardless. So we see him getting his ring. Now in the comics, I mean, I think they like changed, they established his canon or like what happened with him and then they sort of changed it. But we should go into this, with John Stewart being ex-military, if not maybe still being in the military at the time of getting his ring. But in the comics, it's sort of this thing where it's just Hal Jordan is the person who sort of like brings John Stewart into the Green Lantern Corps. But I think I think for the show's sake, it might be better if John Stewart just gets his ring on his own. But the thing is, they are following it fairly decently in the comics, from the comics at least, where we had Hal Jordan. The next one after Hal Jordan was Guy Gardner, and then we went to John Stewart. So they're following that. But in the comics, I think Guy Gardner dead? I can't remember if he was dead or just incapacitated, and that's why they had to get John Stewart. There was a reason that John Stewart was given the ring, because something happened to Guy Gardner. I can't remember off the top of my head. But if we do see his origin, I'd assume it's going to be some sort of mini flashback to an extent. It could be literally the opening scene of the show, and then it's like 6 months later, 1 year later, or something like that. But maybe there hasn't been a certain event or certain big events at the very least which have required John Stewart to push ahead with his training or like get experience as a Green Lantern. But the thing is that I would assume that Hal Jordan would have to fold into John Stewart's training at the very least. So that's why I think they might not be the best of buddies in the show in the present day if we are set after, a bit after John's got his ring. But they are known to each other because Hal was pretty much told by the Guardians on Oa, like, hey, you got to do this. What are you doing? But speaking of flashbacks, the next thing I would like to see, because we know we're getting the character in the show, that of course being Sinestro, I'd love to see some sort of dynamic, hopefully through flashbacks between Sinestro and Hal Jordan, maybe even potentially seeing Sinestro in his Green Lantern days before turning and seeing the relationship between Sinestro and Hal Jordan. Of course, Sinestro was Hal Jordan's mentor. So I think if you saw a dynamic between those two when they were both, when Hal was being trained, and then maybe how Hal was training John Stewart in the present day, I think that'd be very interesting. And even just seeing some similarities either between Sinestro as a mentor and now Hal as a mentor, or Hal as a mentee and Jon Stewart as a mentee, and seeing if there's any similarities or complete differences. I think that's something I would really like to see, and I think adding Sinestro into the show sure gives you a present day antagonist sort of vibe, but I think that also opens the door to do some stuff potentially in flashbacks. Now, it's an HBO show. It's also a Damon Lindelof affiliated show. So it's something where I could easily see them doing like just one episode where it's, it's set in the past. It's set 10, 20, 25 years in the past, depending on how specifically old Hal Jordan is and how long ago he got his ring. But I think if you did something where we are seeing Hal Jordan maybe in his first years, the only issue with that is that you'd probably have to cast another actor. You wouldn't be able to use Kyle Chandler, but why not? People wanted to see Hal Jordan. You can give them that younger Hal Jordan as well as this older one that's played by Kyle Chandler. So that's something I would really, really love to see. Now, I mentioned this before, Oa. You got to show us the home of the Green Lantern Corps, and you got to show us the Guardians as well. I want to see Oa. I think you have to show Oa. Now, the only thing is that, like, I think it once again depends maybe on Jon Stewart and if he needs to go there or if he's just specifically on Earth and Hal's the one that sort of sends that he's the messenger and he's just the one that Jon Stewart deals with. He doesn't have to deal with Oa at all. But I think we'd have to see it at least once, even if it's just a complete CGI thing. We don't have any of our human characters and we just see some of the alien Green Lantern members and the Guardians and it's all CGI and stuff like, or VFX. But I think you have to show Oa. I'd be disappointed if we didn't see Oa in some way. And I sort of hinted at it before. The next thing I'd love to see, I don't think we need to see it. It's once again, I don't think it's in this. I think that Jon Stewart's origin, I think it's probably needed. I think even with Sinestro and Hal, that's probably more of a want, but I'd like to think it's a need just to show some dynamics. Oh, you have to show that. You need to show that. This one, though, I think is more of just I'd love to see it, and that's Other Lanterns. Now, of course, we are getting Jon Stewart, we are getting Hal Jordan, we are, I guess, technically, another Green Lantern or former Green Lantern in the form of Sinestro. And there is rumors that Guy Gardner is going to show up in the show. Of course, he's going to be in Superman, played by Nathan Fillion. You'd assume Nathan Fillion also plays him in Lanterns. So, that's a human side. Potentially, they maybe even tap into Alan Scott, whether they actually show Alan Scott or they just reference him. But I'd really love to see, if we do go to Oa, obviously, which I think should be a thing that we definitely do, is seeing those alien races and those Green Lanterns from those respective parts of the galaxy. So, like your Tomar-Ray, your Kilowog, your goddamn Chip the Squirrel, like various things like that. I think that'd be cool. Now, once again, this could just be one episode. We don't have to go to Oa every episode, but just one episode we go to Oa and there's a specific reason we have to go there, whether it's to learn something, maybe it's just one character, maybe it is just Hal Jordan, or maybe it is just Jon Stewart that has to go there and do something, and we see those different characters. Now, of course, none of these characters have been cast. Obviously, the Guy Gardner thing is a rumor. Thing is a rumor, but he's already been cast in Superman, so you don't have to make a big casting announcement. But all those other characters like Tomar-Ray, Kilowog, Chip, whoever it is, they are VFX, so they just be voice over artists or just voice, voice acting if they show up. You don't have to cast that role. You can do that like 3 or 4 months after you finish filming. You go, okay, we'll cast this actor to voice Tomar-Ray. So those are things that I think we have to see that, and that ties into the Oa thing. So you kill a couple of birds with one stone, or one episode in particular. Show us Oa, show us those alien Green Lanterns. You could do heaps there. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But here's the next one that I'm just sort of wondering: is it a need or is it more of a want? I think it depends how much you want to flesh out the world and the world building around it before where this show is set. And of course, we know we're getting an older Hal Jordan, but I'd just like to get a feel of the Green Lantern presence on Earth and to the general public before the events of this show. Are they well known to Earth? Is that a thing? Does if Hal Jordan's flying around as Green Lantern, do people know what he's done? How long he's been around and stuff like that, because I have a feeling and this might be why Guy Gardner is showing up in Superman first and potentially could be seen, or be known to a lot of people, is that maybe Guy Gardner is the most well known of the Green Lanterns due to working with Maxwell Lord, like we'll see in Superman, and that could also add to the other Lanterns, both human like Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and non-human, like those ones on Oa, not liking him much at all because he goes against it. So he doesn't do anything bad enough where he gets the ring taken off him, and he's obviously got it before. but he's not really going along with the morals and the standards and stuff that the Green Lantern Corps is expected to. So he's going the very business corporate route and essentially working for like a corporate military, you know, situation, you know, organization, if you want to put it. So that would obviously make it that Guy Gardner is known to a lot of people through that, but also why there's resentment from the other people. Because I think in the comics, a lot of times it's just like, no, he's an ass. This actually adds sort of like a real world feel to it. Like when someone goes corporate or someone, you know, sells out, if you want to put it, that's what Guy Gardner is doing. And that's why the other Lanterns, human and non-human, just don't vibe with him at all and just sort of roll their eyes if he walks into the room. And the final thing is more of a question and just like, will they do this? Well, the show is called Lanterns. It's not called the Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart hold hands and walk along the beach show. It's not called that. It's not even called Green Lanterns. It's called Lanterns. So they could tie into like Red Lantern Corps, all the different, you know, colors on the spectrum in the cores and stuff like that. But will the show set up another Lantern in this show outside of Jon Stewart? Because as we know, Kyle Chandler's Hal Jordan has been around for a bit, Jon Stewart's the rookie, and we know Guy Gardner's in Superman, so you don't have to do any setting up there. And I do say specifically Lantern because it could be another color. They could do a red Lantern or whatever it is. But could they do Kyle Rayner? Because Kyle Rayner is a very fan favorite type of Green Lantern. A lot of people thought if they ever did like specifically like a TV show like this, they might actually focus on Kyle Rayner. Would they set him up? And I think the only way you could do that is if something happens. And that might be where, like, if they did like season 2 of Lanterns, maybe that's where Kyle Rayner could flow in. I think if you're doing like introducing new characters and stuff, you probably just want to focus on one per season. Maybe you could tease the character, but I don't know if you'd introduce it specifically or introduce that character specifically as a Lantern. You could say, oh, here's Kyle Rayner randomly for some reason, but he's not a Green Lantern. He doesn't get the ring in the season. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors that Hal Jordan dies in this series, but they're just based off the fact that he's old. That's literally it. They're just basing off the fact that he's 50, 55 years old, whatever it is, and that's why he's going to die. Which could be the case easily, especially because we know, from what we can tell, Jon Stewart's going to be like the quote-unquote main Green Lantern, if you want to put it. Like, he's going to be the one that's involved with the Justice League and stuff. Like, if Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman get together, the Green Lantern that's standing next to them is Jon Stewart, because it definitely feels like James Gunn is basing his universe, or the feel of his universe and how it looks and stuff, at least with the characters and their designs, off the Justice League animated shows from the early 2000s. So maybe you could do something like that, especially if Jon Stewart like ascends above Lanterns and he's more into like the movie side of things after the show. Maybe Kyle Rayner gets a focus there, and maybe even Guy Gardner if he doesn't die as well. But it's going to be a very interesting thing, because what we're talking about here could be like just going above expectations. Like, hey, the show's not meant to be that grand, but at the same time, I think if you're going to do a Green Lantern show, you have to dive into the lore and the world around it, because that was the issue that movie had in 2011, 2012, whenever it was. There was just not enough focus on that lore, or they speed run it. Like, they just speed ran like the lore and stuff, and it was just a bit confusing, or didn't fully commit to it because they just didn't have enough time. There's a lot of lore there with Green Lantern. Like, Green Lantern itself could be its own franchise. There's that much stuff there, even just outside of being within DC. So hopefully the show does it fairly well. It's HBO, so we should expect roughly 1 hour long episodes, and some of them are probably going to be like an hour 10, hour 20. So there's a lot of time there. So I feel like they're going to dive into that, because I don't think they're going to make it where it's slow. I don't think this is going to be an overly slow burning show. I think the mystery might, if there's a mystery within the show, but it's not like you don't understand what's going on until like 5 episodes in. I think that would definitely, or you don't like understand what a Green Lantern is, how they get chosen, the responsibilities and everything like that. I think you'll get a quick grip on it within this show. I'd be very surprised if they spread it out too much. But of course, we're like a year and a half away from this coming out. So they're about to start filming, but we're a long, long way from seeing anything from this show, or at least watching episode 1. So be patient, I guess. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions and everything we went over this video. Always curious to hear what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.